The glory days of Bargoed is a memory of the past. In many years it has seen decline and it became a ghost town fast. This town that we grew up in, it's changed so much indeed. This former mining town, it's so very much in need. The people I grew up with, they've gone and moved away, with many shops all boarded up, all gone and seen their day. Bargoed was a thriving town, or so it has been said. It's depressing to see the way it is now, all quiet, empty and dead. Regeneration was the answer. This vision will come true. A positive future for Bargoed, bringing jobs to the valley too. This town is steeped in history, so let us not forget. Moving with the modern times, let's give the town respect. God bless the town of Bargoed. May he look down on it and smile. May the angel protect its people. May its presence be felt a while. The wonderful town of Bargoed. I'm so proud of this town and its past. Remember the great mining history. May the memory of it ever last. This town has had its troubles, but don't let that turn you away. The spirit of Bargoed is still surviving for the young generation today. The metropolis of the valley, the city on the hill, wherever I might travel, remember her I will. I wrote that poem a while ago, so I hope you liked it. And copyright Andrew Dexter, which is me. This is the former mining town of Bargoed, which is in the Caerphilly County borough of the South Wales Valleys. It was part of the Rhymney Valley. Pont Aberbargoed as it was, but shortened to Bargoed after the opening of Bargoed railway station in 1858. Now there's a number of variations on how to pronounce this town. In English it's Bargoed, in Welsh Bargoed, but in English it means border, which is on the border of the village of Aberbargoed. Behind me is Bargoed Viaduct, which was constructed in 1857. And this here, as you can see, is Factory Road, because there used to be a number of factories by here. Now, many of you will know already, but for those of you who don't, the actress Doris Hare was born here on the 1st of March 1905. And she left Bargoed when she was 7 years old, and the rest is history. Now she is well known for playing Mum in On the Buses, that 1970s sitcom, which is repeated endlessly on ITV3. Also by here you'll see that the village of Pont Lottin is just 5 miles away. Now, Pont Lottin, believe it or not, is where the actor David Jason, the David Jason who played Del Boy in Only Fools and Horses, he had family down here, and Uncle Idris. And David would come down every so often to visit his uncle in Rhymney, and that's mentioned in his autobiography. Now, if you've got good eyesight, many of you would have noticed the village of Deri, which is just about 1.5 miles from here. Doctor Who, The Green Death, was filmed here. Well, filmed just up that road in April 1973. I met the actor John Pertwee, and it's famously well known as the one with the maggots. And it was filmed on Ogilvie Colliery, where my grandfather worked. This here is the old corn mill. It's also used to be called the Old Mill, which was a pub. and it served the community for many years in Pont Aberbargoed, but this was destroyed in January 2012. My grandfather had a couple of pints in here. This is Bargoed railway station, which opened in 1857. This used to be a junction and used to have 3 lines. And just over there was the line that brought the train from Newport up to Brecon, which is up here. Now the train line still has a direct route to Cardiff, because Bargoed is 17 miles from Cardiff and 8 miles north of Caerphilly. And this train's going to Rhymney. Now the journey from Bargoed to Cardiff takes 40 minutes. Nice and easy. And it also has a convenient taxi service, Beeline, for when you finish your journey. The line from Newport to Brecon was closed in 1962. Now, by here used to be the Junction Hotel. This is for the weary traveller and the local miners. It was demolished in the 1980s. This is the Park and Ride, which was opened not that long ago. By here used to be the bridge, and it was demolished in 2008 after almost 100 years. It was considered unsafe because of the HGV vehicles that was travelling over here, and it was a rather weak bridge. So from the railway station and where the bridge was, is this bus interchange, which opened in June 2011. I was here that day when they opened it, and the convenience there, which is never seemed to be open, and those steps opened as well, which leads to the town centre. Right here is the Cosy Fish Bar, which used to be the Coney Corner Cafe. I remember Larry Horn working here in the 1980s. Right there used to be the New Hall Cinema, and it used to be a cafe ballroom as well. It was destroyed by fire on the 6th of February 1958. Now the cause of fire, I was told, was a faulty projector. That's what Marion told me. But I was told by Ron Cooper that the fire was started by Billy John, the tramp. Now some of you will remember him, I certainly do. He slept rough for years before he finally was housed on the Gulvach Council estate. The last film to be shown here was called Just My Luck, which starred Norman Wisdom. Now, how ironic was that? The fire was spotted by a railway booking clerk at just before 5 AM. And the fire itself was witnessed by Mr. Alan Tilley, the local fella around here. Now, directly opposite used to be the Palace Cinema. Now, the Palace Cinema was opened on the 10th of November 1910 by Mr. William Hager at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's in the history books. It showed quite a number of films, and it was reopened again on Boxing Day 1973. The manager was Lynn Williams and his wife Merrill. Now, many people growing up here will remember that. My father took me here to see the 1976 remake of King Kong. That was my first time in the cinema, I think. Actually, no, it was my second. And yeah, I wanted to see it again. But yeah, I saw the first 3 Star Wars films here. Star Wars, A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Peter Pan I saw here, that was my first time. What else did I see? Superman 2 and Superman 3 I saw here. And sadly it closed down in July 1994, and it was demolished then, and that's on film, that's on YouTube. So there we are. For a while it became the job centre, and that too was removed to the new retail plateau, and now it's the Sweet Peas Nursery. Just by here is Bargoed Snooker Hall, otherwise known as Snooks. Now my daughter comes here on the weekends because it gets busy, and a number of big name snooker players came here. Stephen Henry, The Whirlwind, Jimmy White, and Mark Williams as well. We used to go to the Cozy Corner just under there, and yeah, that's Bargoed Snooker Hall. St Gladys's Church was built in 1876 with a few added extensions years later. I used to go to this church in the late 1980s, and then it was Peter Cox. So by here then is the church hall, which was built in 1910. Now it's used for a number of events. It was at the library for a while when the old library got demolished for Morrisons, and as you can see, it's used for Slimming World. I didn't go there. St Gladys's Church Hall. That was St Gladys's School. It used to be called Bargoed North. My mother used to attend that school in the 1960s until she left in 1965, and she got a job in Baldwin Street. That's where she met my father. And the headmistress then was Miss Cowles, or Miss Cowles. Let's just say she wasn't my mother's favourite, but Miss Cowles went to America to teach. Now you might have seen the name St Gladys a lot. Well, I'll tell you a little story about that. St Gladys, she was a beautiful princess, and she lived a very long time ago. This is not a fairy tale, but she was abducted by Gwynflew. Now, this was back in medieval times. This is how the story of Bargoed really begins. And Gwynflew was a king, but he was also a warrior, and he and 300 men abducted Gladys, and he eventually married her against her father Brychan's wishes. So anyway, they got married and they moved over to Stow Hill in Newport, and they were there for a while, and they lived the lives of hermits. Yeah, and they fasted as well, because they had a son called Catug. He was known as Catug the Wise because he was elected abbot, and he was responsible for over 36 monasteries in South East Wales, and there should be a monastery here, which is still there in Baldwin Street, the remains of it anyway. And incidentally, like I said, that's where my parents met. Now there's rumours that the bakehouse was haunted, but my mother didn't believe it, and she experienced nothing there. But anyway, yes, that's how St Gladys was named after her. She left, she grew weary, did St Gladys, and in her 50s she left. The journey was long and hard, and she died here, and she was buried in Caerphilly, the village of Caerphilly, and you'll find her tomb on Capel Gladys. So that's the story of St Gladys and her connection to Bargoed. Over there is the view of Aberbargoed, where my family come from. St Gladys' Church. This is the unknown warrior, the unknown soldier. He's been moved around a bit. He used to stand on the square, as it was called then, Trafalgar Square, but now it's called Hanbury Square. Then it moved up to the park, where many of us will remember growing up, in the 1970s. Now it's here, which is probably where it's going to stay. My grandfather, Roland Dexter, served in the Second World War. He was in the commandos there. So, I come from a military background as well as a mining background. The town of Bargoed benefited from an influx of Italian families that came from Bardi in Italy, and they provided the town with cafes, restaurants, ice cream parlours and chip shops. You may remember Pier Trinati, who opened on the High Street. His son's got it now. And there's Rissi's cafe, which is on Hanbury Square, which used to be called Trafalgar Square. Now, Joe and Irene Rossi, they opened on the High Street in 1961. The cafe was originally there in the 70s and 80s, but after Mr. Rossi died, the cafe was relocated here after the original shop was demolished. The construction of the Emporium here was completed in 1908 with a top clock. With a top on clock. With a clock on top. The clock resembled London's Big Ben, but it was removed in April 1970 for safety reasons. Now, I don't remember the clock, but there is still a picture of it here somewhere. This is a much photographed landmark, but originally there was a row of cottages here that was demolished for this. Now, the Emporium closed in around 1979. Now, some of you will be well aware of the 1911 Tredegar riots. It's well documented in history. Jewish riots it was. And my great-grandfather, Joseph Arthur Dexter, lived in Tredegar at the time, because that's where my family originally come from, before moving to Aberbargoed. Now, obviously it was widespread, and it happened in Vale, and by the 23rd of August 1911 it came here to Bargoed. Now, there was a train strike at the time which provided food for the community around here, and because that happened there was no food, so the local shoppers around here put up the prices, which annoyed the Jewish community around here. So this angered them, and that's how the riot started here. 23rd of August. There was over 1,000 men, well actually about 1,000 men, had gathered around here by the pier head, throwing stones and smashing windows. Mr. Barnett was stood by the doorway of the jewellery. He had a revolver in his hand and he said, "Stand aside, I'm going to shoot." But the inspector stopped him in time. That's recorded in the local journal. That's how I know. Now, the riot carried on all the way up Hanbury Road. As you can see, Peacocks is still going strong. The Royal Hotel used to stand here, but now that was demolished and it's called the Royal Square. Blister's nightclub. Many of the locals used to come here, including myself. I met my daughter's mother here in 1993. The old bank chamber's there, and that's the Square Royal. Used to be the furniture shop. Now it's the Square Royal. I had my 50th birthday there 4 years ago. That used to be Barclays Bank, but it closed down this year, 2023. Now there's no bank in Bargoed. This is Hanbury Road. That used to be the betting shop. Burton's by there, and Honeydots opened this year by local councillor Reg Carroll and Dawn Ingram Jones. And you've got Gus Jones's there, the jewellers. And as with every town, this is a charity shop, Bernardo's. This used to be the Hanbury Baptist Church chapel, but now it's the local library. Hello. The deacon used to be Mr. Claude Borrett, who incidentally used to be the headmaster of the Y. Greg Junior School, which was in Clancy Street, sadly demolished in 2002. Now, the Welsh language was dying, and this is the first English-speaking church in the town. And now it's a very resourceful library, very helpful for local and family history. This is how I received my family history, and the staff are very, very helpful indeed. That was Robert Gordon, by the way. In 1965, the painter, the famous painter, L.S. Lowry, came here to Bargoed and painted this, what you see here. It now hangs here at Bargoed Library. The original painting stands in Salford in Manchester, in the museum there. It's only Monday and the town is dead. This town in the 1950s and 60s was absolutely bustling. Now look at it. Shops closed. That over there used to be Lloyd's Bank. I had an account with them some time ago. Belinda's place right here. But you do have pretty little paintings here. Over there is the New Continental Cafe, where Piers Sonati's sons now have the business. That there is Pet and Garden Supplies, used to be owned by Peter Collins. I used to get my rabbits from there. Ooh, a long time ago. Local pharmacy, the Hanbury Road Pharmacy. Right there is Bargoed Police Station. It opened in 1904, and the first police officer in Bargoed was PC Alway Boobia. Now, some of you will remember the Boobias as the Undertakers in Wood Street, but Alway Boobia is recorded in the 1881 census. Now, the chairman of Bargoed Town Council, or the Chamber of Trade, was concerned about the lack of policing here. Of course, the level of crime being what it was, and unemployment, they desperately needed a police station. So they had one in 1904. This is one of my favourite towns, one of my favourite cafes in town rather. So this is where I come regularly, or I used to before I moved to Dorset. So this here is the relatively new retail plateau. And this is Iceland. Iceland opened on the 9th of April 2019. I was here with my friend Nicholas at the time. And this is where Bargoed Job Centre moved to. Bargoed has a Greggs. Card factory there. Bargoed Fish Park. Now, they do excellent bag chips, they're very large. Big time. This is Lowry Plaza, named after L.S. Lowry, the famous painter who came here in 1965. Directly opposite was the Hanbury Arms. Now, in 2015, they filmed Stella here, Series 5, and I did see the actress Ruth Jones, who was also in Gavin and Stacey, also Corinne, but they filmed it here and I watched the filming of it. This used to be the Hanbury Cinema. It used to be called the Electric Cinema, and it was opened by the Jackson and Withers Group in 1914. And it showed a number of films in there, and it closed in 1973. And then it became the top ranked bingo hall, and I used to go in there regularly and win. But now it's got asbestos in there. It's going to cost at least 50,000 to get rid of all that. And yeah, it's rather than just us without restoration alone. It was going to be reopened, but it hasn't. For some reason it didn't. Right there is Riss's Cafe. One of the oldest buildings and properties and businesses in Bargoed. It was established in 1929 when Luigi Rissi came from Bardi in Italy, and his son John Rissi took over it, and then now his sons have got it now, and the ice cream is absolutely delicious. I recommend it to anyone. My son likes it, my daughter likes it, and I loved it ever since I was a boy. Not that long ago. If you're inclined to like Subway, this is your thing. This opened in Bargoed just a few years ago. This is Morrisons, which opened in Bargoed in December 2013 after a multi-million pound regeneration scheme, which was meant to have a cinema coming here as well, but that was cancelled. This here is a constant reminder of the mining history. What an excellent view. Now this is where Ogilvie Colliery used to be. You wouldn't think it, would you? Now the sinking of the colliery began in 1897 with the first coal produced in 1901. Now they broke world records here, sort of creating 4,020 tons of coal in a 10-hour shift in 1909. Something to be proud of, isn't it? That train's going to Cardiff. My grandfather used to work at the colliery here, but he had to finish in the 1950s after a nasty accident. A big slab of coal fell on his back, and his friends, his work buddy, had to help him out, and he was almost paralysed. So there you go. As I say, that petrol station down there opened in 2013, Saturday the 23rd of November. So, I don't know if you heard me, but Ogilvie Colliery closed in 1977, and that began the decline of Bargoed slowly, because it provided the economy for it. And in this place with this bypass, which people campaigned for years, and they said, Bargoed bypass now. This here's the old settlement. Now in 1941, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, better known to everyone in years later, the Queen Mother, came here. Not sure why, but she came to my street because I grew up here in Cardiff Road. Now it's not every day you can say that the Queen came to your street. Dexter Garages, the family business. My cousin had the garage down there, so still in Cardiff Road. This is the family business. I grew up on the street, like I said, Cardiff Road, and I used to pop down now and again. But yeah. Unfortunately, my cousin Robert, he's now in a nursing home in Monmouthshire with vascular dementia. So the sign is still there.